Welcome to New Life Live with host and founder of New Life Ministries, Stephen Arterburn. New Life Live is dedicated to transforming lives one at a time, thanks to the giving hearts of you, our listeners. Our goal is to provide you with wisdom from God's Word to give you hope and help in life's hardest places. If you have a question you'd like to ask today, our phone lines are open. Call 1-800-229-3000. That number again is 1-800-229-3000. Now here's Steve.
Welcome to New Life Live today. And again, I have these phenomenal friends that I get to hang out with. I have Amanda Anderson in studio today. We haven't actually hung out or done speaking or whatever together in quite a while.
A long time.
Yeah, but it's good to see you.
You too.
Yeah. And so she has friends and they have issues. She wrote a book about it. And so,
I think I just snorted on the radio. I have issues too.
Yes.
It's why she's okay sitting with the two of us.
Totally. And then I have Dr. Alice Benton. And Alice, you've been doing a lot of work too on something that's really important, and that is our struggle with screens taking over our lives, and especially the lives of our kids. And you have a book coming out here soon about that, right?
Soon is next summer.
Next summer.
Yes, not
Excellent.
soon enough.
That's soon in publishing.
Steve and I wrote Understanding and Loving Your Child in a Screen-Saturated World.
Yeah.
We want to help equip parents with both how to engage with their children on screen well, because it's actually protective to purposefully bring your kids on screen. But then how do we develop the character and self-control for them to gracefully come off screen when we need them to?
Yes, yeah. One of the things that is important that God gives us as human beings to steward His earth, His world, and ourselves well is meaningful work. And I'm very, very grateful that I found work for myself and the people around me that is very meaningful. But there are dangers lurking all around that. And so I like the term deep work. I like to get into deep work, but it's very, very difficult because of this other thing, Alice, called distraction.
Oh, yes. And digital distraction in particular is so powerful and right there at hand. And digital distraction in moderation is actually really helpful and can be soothing when it's limited. But most of us can't keep it limited. We go overboard in the digital distraction. And we use it to soothe and to cover up emotional distress. But it only covers it. It doesn't actually fix and resolve it.
It doesn't resolve the distress that we're actually experiencing. Yeah, that's good. The other thing about today, being Friday, November 11th, is that today is Veterans Day. And it's a day that's meaningful to me. I lost my dad a couple years ago. And this is a day, and he struggled with lifelong PTSD as a result of his experience as a veteran in the Vietnam War, which also included and manifests itself in his own struggle with alcoholism and drinking and his own addictive issues. But this is one day I would always make faithful to call him and let him know, thank you. I appreciate you. I love you. Can't imagine what you went through. But today, if you have a veteran in your life, reach out to them. Express gratitude with them, regardless of how they may show up in the world today. What they have gone through and the way that they have served is worthy of being honored today. So, do you guys have any veterans in your life?
My grandfather, who is now passed, was a medical doctor in World War II.
Wow, that's incredible. Yeah.
Some friends, some family on my side, and we are so grateful to the sacrifice you veterans and your family members make for the rest of us.
Absolutely.
Thank you. We're praying for you.
Yeah. You mentioned my grandfather on my dad's side of the family, my Grandpa Williams, was actually on air traffic control duty when Pearl Harbor was bombed.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
So there's some artifacts in our family that were there and a part of it, but fortunately he survived it. But again, to have that as part of the lineage and to honor them today, honor our freedom, express gratitude. And so if you're listening out there and you're a veteran, we want to thank you, honor you today, and ask God's great blessing on your life. So we'll be back after this to take your calls.
It had become very apparent that some of the things I was involved with were taking over my life.
In today's world, men are barraged with inappropriate content and images all day, every day. Some say that certain behaviors are just no big deal. It's just part of being a guy. But it's simply not true. It's a battleground for every man, and the opportunities to fail are everywhere. New Life's Every Man's Battle Workshop can help.
After 7 years, he just one weekend, a completely changed man.
For over 20 years, New Life Ministries has been helping men regain their integrity and purity through their one-of-a-kind Every Man's Battle Workshop.
He said, I think this is something that every man should go to. Married, dating, it was definitely life-changing.
Now the workshop is coming to Dallas December 2nd through the 4th. Don't wait for him to call. To find out more, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE or go to newlife.com.
I just can't say enough of what New Life has done for our marriage.
1-800-NEWLIFE. To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back to New Life Live, and we're going to go straight to the phones. We're going to go to Tim, listening in Louisville, Kentucky, watching on YouTube. Tim, we'll pull him up here really quickly.
Louisville.
So, Tim, yes, right. I always mispronounce
Not Louisville. Louisville. Am I doing that right?
I grew up in Colorado, and there's a town near us spelled the exact same way, and we called Louisville.
Oh.
But then, meeting people from Louisville, it's not Louisville, right? Because I think of Louisville Slugger. Tim, how do you say...
Set us straight, Tim.
Yes, Tim, how do you say it?
Louisville.
There it is.
There we go.
It's like, I got to get marbles in my mouth. Louisville, Kentucky.
We're in Southern California. Forgive us.
All right, Tim. Hey, man, thank you for calling in. How can we help you today?
Yeah, my question is, me and my fiance both have PTSD. Mine is complex, and I'm not sure about hers. I do know from talking to her that we share at least one trigger, and I'm wondering how can I help and be there to support her if that happens and we're both triggered.
Yeah, absolutely. Tim, this is one fantastic awareness of what you guys are carrying inside of you, and two, a great, great question. So, Alice, what does Tim do with this?
Tim, could you briefly share with us a little of the history behind the trauma for both of you?
It's sexual in nature. I'll leave it at that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
both from the childhood.
Okay. And what kind of a healing process have you been in, and are you both in now?
I've been doing mostly processing my emotions on my own through handwriting and poetry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what about
her?
Counseling? Mm-hmm.
She's been going to counseling to process hers.
And what's your opinion about you going to counseling? Why or why not?
I went because I don't want to be massively triggered in front of her because I love her.
Mm-hmm. Are you going to counseling?
Yes.
Excellent. Yeah.
So what may seem like a weakness, that seems to be how you're kind of presenting it. You're both triggered by some things. I think can become a great shared strength as you continue and stay committed to a structured healing process. And I'm glad you're not just doing it on your own, because we tend to need other people around us in order to heal. And we need to be in a structured format for healing to really be effective. Mm-hmm. And so bringing your stories to the light and being willing to talk about what you both have been through, sharing it together in the safety of therapeutic relationship is what strengthens us to be able to foresee those triggers, plan for them together, even rehearse them before they happen, so that when they do inevitably happen, we can handle it. So I hope you also have some combined sessions and do some real specific premarital counseling work so that you can strategize this together before marriage.
All right.
Yeah. Amanda, what do you think?
I think Alice nailed it, is what I think.
Yeah.
But Alice brought up earlier this week a great resource, which is Mylan and Kay Yurkovich's book, How We Love, which is based on attachment theory. And they have a guided listening process that called the Comfort Circle, in which you learn to listen to one another and show empathy, and then you talk about how much of what I'm feeling is in the present and how much of it is coming from the past. And so that's a tool my husband and I have used repeatedly in our marriage to process stress. And so it would be something I would include as part of your preparation for marriage, is to learn to use that tool. It works with everyday things, and then also in a structured environment with a therapist is a great way to process trauma as well.
Yeah.
They have another resource, How We Love Sex or Don't. And given that your trauma is sexual in nature, there will be complications in your own intimacy with your wife. And so not only working on this on the emotional intimacy level, but also preparing for what will come, what the fears, the worries, the holdups are about sexual intimacy will be really important for you two. And so making sure that your therapist either has some expertise in this, is willing to gain it, or adding in a sexual therapist expert in this, you'll probably need that as well.
Yeah. Tim,
where can I find one that's faith-based?
We can help you in our network of counselors.
Yeah, we can look for that. Yeah, absolutely. Because you definitely want to, like Alice was saying, find someone who specializes in this area of our sexuality. Because when, the thing that's not readily recognized but is universally true about childhood sexual abuse and the harm and the trauma that we carry is that it hits us at a soul level, at the very, very core of our own sense of safety, security, and well-being, including our sense of identity. And this is where shame comes in, and the contagion that happens during the childhood sexual trauma is that this core belief that there is something fundamentally defective about me. And so it's actually, in a weird way, the brain's attempt at controlling an uncontrollable situation, at giving a why. Why did this happen? Because there's no good reason, right? So the reason must be there's something wrong with me. Now, if that thing isn't identified, healed, and corrected, it grows, it metastasizes throughout life, and then we begin to carry around that something, that there is something fundamentally wrong with me, and that becomes the birthplace of that shame. So what happens is that in those painful places, in those triggered places, is that shame, that sense of fear and frustration and anger just takes absolutely over. And that's why we've got to go back to those original woundings and start working through those so we can change the meaning, but most importantly, what it means about us. And then eventually to then gain this word that we use in our, sometimes we as therapists use very unhelpful words. I can't find a different word, so I'm going to try to break it down just a little bit. We rediscover our agency. And that just is a fancy way of saying, I get to determine me. Not just what I do, but what I think and what I feel, what I decide. And I get to honor other people in their agency as well. And that's where safe intimacy happens. When our safety through abuse, and especially sexual abuse, happens early on, it rips away our agency. It's no longer safe to feel what I feel, think what I think, and do what I do. And so we have to rebuild that in the recovery process. So that's a long, drawn-out answer to say, Tim, the best thing you can do with your wife is continue on your own healing and growth journey, is becoming a safer place for yourself as she is trying to do that for herself.
We have our weekend, Intimacy and Marriage, and the next one is in February, the 17th through the 19th in Orange County. And we even have engaged couples, Tim, who come to the weekend, or newly married couples. And so please consider that as well, because in a group setting, you find the safety to tell your story, but also hear other people's stories, and then learn how to talk about sexuality and to how to deepen these different levels of intimacy that we've been talking about.
So, Tim, we're going to send you a couple resources. We're going to send you the book, How We Love, and we're also going to send you Healing as a Choice. And so both those resources are going to come your way. I encourage you and your fiance to both read through those, share those experiences together, grow together. Yes, as you said, Alice, really important. That intimacy in marriage workshop is critically important in helping us understand each other. And one of the things that's always stuck with me that Mylan says is that we must become PhDs in each other's childhood. Mm-hmm. And I just find that knowing the history of my wife helps me so much more of relating to her story today and who she is and how she shows up, and vice versa. I mean, I got some weird things going on. It could be really confusing to my wife, and she's like, oh, it's no longer confusing because this is part of what he picked up along the way in his own story. So, yeah. So, Tim, thank you so much for calling in, and we're wishing and cheering you and your fiance well in your healing journey. And we do fully believe in a God who does heal and a God who does restore. So we're going to keep this going. We're going to go to Scott in Bloomington, Illinois. And he's listening on WPEO. Scott, are you there?
I am. Hello.
Hi, Scott.
Scott, what's going on, man?
So my question is, how do I demonstrate to my wife about the opportunity and the chance that we could have at hope and reconciliation to save our marriage from divorce?
Why is she seeking divorce?
Well, my wife has been saying that she wants a divorce. I've tried talking with her about it. Can we get help? Can we do something? And it always comes back to she wants a divorce. And so then I ended up serving her to file for divorce. I don't want it, but I did that in July of this year. And so we've been undergoing this, through the divorce process. And through that process, I've been trying to demonstrate to her all that I could do to try and give us hope and how we can try and save our marriage. And she just doesn't want any part of it.
Do you know if there's another person in her life?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't. I know that I don't know for sure.
Why has she been dissatisfied with the marriage?
Well, I think there's a lot of forces at play here. I mean, certainly, emotionally, I probably have, certainly haven't been connecting with her, and there was an earlier time in our marriage 5 years ago. She mentioned that she wanted a divorce, and I fought so hard to save her and our family, and demonstrated to her how I'm a changed man, and and so forth, and I think it went well for a bit, and then it kind of reverted back to the old habits and so forth. But so we've got a combination. We've got 3 boys, and we both work full time, and so you have those forces at play, and there's no priority for the marriage, and so the marriage has suffered. And I think as part of that, then just emotionally we become disconnected. And
Scott, what were those old habits?
Well, I think if she was on the line, she would say that I was emotionally abusive and things like this, and so from her perspective, I think that's what she would say about me.
And in addition to your effort, because I know there's been a lot of that, what is the professional help that you've gotten for the emotional distance and maybe even emotional abuse or mistreatment?
Well, her and I as a couple have not done that. I did ask her a while back, hey, listen, what about counseling? And her response was, no, there is nothing. We have no marriage. I want a divorce. And that just was kind of like the theme. It kept going on and on.
And so what was the help that you got for yourself? Because you couldn't convince her to go, and I'm sad to hear that.
Well, yeah, I went, I've spoken to a couple different counselors. One was, telling me, listen, you should talk to your wife. You deserve to know what's happening with your marriage. And so that's when I went, ask her, what about our marriage? What about us? That's when she would tell me, she wants a divorce. And so right now I'm, have a counselor and talking through just things through this divorce process. However, my counselor is kind of down the track of, preparing for the divorce and versus, I don't want the divorce.
Mm-hmm.
I'm of the mindset that I always believe in hope and reconciliation, and that if the Lord can rob himself of the grave, why can't he do anything? But we've got to allow it, we've got to want it, and that's the piece.
Yeah.
So Scott,
my
as we
wife just doesn't want it.
Scott, as we come to the break, I want you to think about how strongly you can take responsibility for not having cared well enough for her heart. She might be over-accusing you. Maybe there's some truth in her complaints. So think about that and come back with a strong statement of responsibility for your side of the street. And she's imperfect too, and she's added to the problems. But I want you to come back with that statement for us. That'll help us then lead you in the right direction.
All right, so Scott, thank you so much for calling in. We're going to continue with Scott once we get back from our break. But again, I want to encourage you to reach out. If you're looking for a therapist, 1-800-NEW-LIFE. We can help you with that, get you connected to the help you need.
My husband was involved with pornography addiction. He was unfaithful. I called the wedding off. He stepped out on the marriage and ended up having a child.
The Restore Workshop is designed for a woman dealing with a man's sexual addiction issues.
My husband is a recovering sex addict. There were strip clubs, other ladies.
If you've been affected by betrayal, an emotional or physical affair, or pornography, the Restore Workshop will equip you with support and tools to help you through.
Restore has empowered me and has given me the tools to work through my anger, work through my pain, work through my confusion, and help me realize that I am worthy.
Being here and being surrounded by people who get it has given me my power back.
The Restore Workshop is coming to Washington, D.C. November 11th through the 13th. To register or to find out more, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE or online at newlife.com.
Thank you, Restore. You have changed my life forever.
Chris Williams on coaching.
Oftentimes I get asked, what is the difference between therapy and coaching? The biggest difference between the two is that a therapist is going to be looking for a diagnosable mental health condition, whereas a coach is going to look at a particular issue and help a person work through that.
If you need a coach, call New Life today and ask about the New Life Coaching Network. Our coaches have been trained and screened with the same intensive process we use for our network counselors.
If you're looking at an issue in your life that you just kind of want to change, whether it be your weight or leadership or other areas of behavioral patterns, check out coaching. There can be some really, really helpful things for you.
Take control of your life and take action to achieve your goals. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433 and talk to us about getting a New Life coach. 1-800-NEW-LIFE. We'd love to hear from you. If you have a question or a comment, call toll-free 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back to New Life Live. We're talking with Scott. Scott, you're in a heartbreaking situation right now, and where your wife is seeking divorce. You don't want it, but Alice asked you to come up with something before we went to the break. So what did you come up with?
Yeah, and just to be clear, so I filed, and I've asked my wife, let's dismiss this, and she doesn't want to. But specifically to answer I just wanted to clear that up. So I certainly would say, in the past I haven't taken ownership for things that I've done wrong or having defensiveness. And one thing I've learned about myself and that I'm working through is that, my actions need to support my beliefs and values. And that's one of the reasons I don't want to do this divorce. Even though I filed, I don't want to do it. And that was wrong of me to file. But, so I think that certainly contributed to the mess that we're in.
And
Scott,
I'm glad to hear you say this. And I'm going to challenge you a little more. You're doing some of that with us. You're skirting the issue a little bit. You're a little bit slow to get to your part. You're getting there, but you're a little slow to get there. And I think that's what your wife has been feeling. I think she's just been crying out, notice that I'm in great pain and I need you to do a lot about it. Because sometimes you're mean to me with your words. Sometimes you cut me down with your words. And it's hard for any of us to accept our errors, our mistakes, the way we hurt our loved ones. I want to defend myself. I want to point out all the good things about me. But Scott, when we get down to the ugliest things about ourselves and we say, I have been a harsh, unkind spouse and I've hurt your feelings over and over again, that generates hope for reconciliation. It's such a good thing that you're in counseling. I was delighted to hear you say that. And I want you and your counselor to work on making big, bold statements about how much you hurt your wife and what your boys were exposed to at those times, because that brings about hope.
Yeah, I mean, my counselor actually is, I'm going to be losing my counselor. She's moving to another network, so I won't be able to have her counselor. So I certainly will be looking for a new Christian counselor. But the problem right now is that we have this divorce process going on, and so it's the overhang of, how do you have hope and reconciliation when that's an ongoing process and you're dealing with such a negative thing. And so, because part of it too is I'm dealing with, I made a vow and a covenant, a promise to my wife and to God. And
hey, Scott, let me jump in.
Yeah.
Guess what? The vow and the covenant are the easy part. Showing up is the hard part. How we show up is actually what matters to the commitment and the covenant. The biblical history makes it clear. Us human beings are horrible at covenant. Our ability to break covenant is undefeated. Otherwise, we wouldn't have needed Jesus. So I mention that because I love that you do honor it. And I love that you want the marriage. But if the devil's in the details, so is God. And here's what I mean by that. And I'll use myself, how I specifically show up to a marriage, to my marriage, is what makes the marriage. It's not a piece of paper. It's not a legal recognition, although tax season that would be helpful, but that's it. At the end of the day, it's the quality of the relationship that is built through that, and it starts with the quality of how I show up to the other person or don't, or the lack thereof. And so that's what the details that Alice is pointing to and speaking to, is that when I can come in and say, listen, I don't know what I was doing, but I made this comment that I thought was a joke and it hurt you. Instead of saying I was just kidding or I was making a joke, I gotta say, man, that was irresponsible and harmful, and I'm sorry I hurt you. Or if I lose my temper, I was emotionally out of control and angry, and I caused harm as a result of that and damage to it as a result of that. Now, not just the confession part of it, now what do I need to do? What changes do I need to make in my life so that doesn't happen? So it's not about honoring a decision that I made quite a few years ago. It's about honoring the quality of the relationship right now, here today.
Yeah.
So I would.
It's like, I'm sorry. I totally agree, and I'm just thinking with this divorce ongoing, it's like at this point I have no trust, with my wife, and so to demonstrate to her that it is worth saving, and everything I hear from her, it's not worth saving. She's heard this before, type of thing. Time to move on. That's the piece where I'm wondering, how do I demonstrate that? Because you can't. I guess you can't speed that up. It just takes time and like you say, demonstrating through actions. And unfortunately, if we're divorced and we're separated, I can't do that any longer.
Scott, we've worked with many couples who are in the process of divorce, have the divorce papers, even have already divorced, and we still see reconciliation happen. But it is through an immense amount of effort and building a mountain of evidence to show I'm going to a meeting every single day. I'm getting therapy a couple times a week. I found a therapist who challenges me, who calls me out on my defensiveness and my minimizing, and I'm showing you the proof, and you can talk with my counselor. It's showing that evidence over time and having a supernatural patience, because you haven't shown that to your wife sufficiently yet. You have done some work, but it hasn't been sufficient. That kind of evidence sometimes does change a person's mind and heart.
So, Scott, we want to encourage you in this. I know this situation is discouraging, but to hold on to hope and prayer, but also if I become better, I become better for everyone around me. We want to encourage you in that. We're going to send you the year-long Bible for Men, and we'll be back right after this.
For most of my life, I've been dealing with an opiate addiction.
Why is opioid addiction quickly becoming one of our nation's biggest killers? Maybe it's because it isn't only those who are addicted who are in denial.
We did what I see so many parents do, is it can't be an addiction. There's something medically wrong.
It's impossible to solve a problem when you don't know what you're up against, and families will try to find any explanation except the one that will put them on the right path.
Alcoholism and drug addiction is a family disease. It doesn't affect just the individual.
If someone you love is abusing painkillers, know what you're up against. It's time to admit its addiction and seek treatment. Call us today at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. We have partner treatment centers around the country. Call 1-800-639-5433 or visit us online at newlife.com.
We just made a decision. We will do whatever it takes.
1-800-NEW-LIFE.
I was really living a very anxiety-filled life. I did go to Take Your Life Back. That's why I continue to support the ministry with the hope that not only am I helping my own situation, that I'm helping others as well.
You can help New Life stay on the air by joining Club New Life today. When you sign up to support us monthly through Club New Life, we'll send you the new member thank you gift of the 1-year Bible for Men or the 1-year Bible for Women. These Bibles combine the best-selling daily Bible reading format with 2-minute daily devotionals written to create a one-of-a-kind devotional Bible that you'll love. There are also ongoing benefits like the monthly Club New Life CD or download, access to the Club New Life video library, quarterly resources, and discounts on workshops. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Support Club New Life, and together we can help hurting people find help and hope in life's hardest places. Call 1-800-639-5433 to join Club New Life today. We're glad you joined us for New Life Live. To be a part of the program, call 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back to New Life Live, and I'm in studio again with Amanda Anderson and Dr. Alice Benton, and I have these wonderful people to help you. And so with that, we want to help you, but you need to help us. Help us help you. Quote the old Jerry,
Little Jerry Maguire.
Little Jerry Maguire. But really, it's much more about partnership. It's much more about alignment to what God is doing in our world today. And we ask that you continue to align us with your generous contributions and your financial partnership. And again, we have so many things that that we're a part of and that we're doing in our workshops. And I just want to mention a few of those. Again, coming up in Dallas on December 2nd, we're going to have our final Every Man's Battle of the Year. And if you've been struggling with sexual acting out, and this has been a painful area of struggle in your life or in your spouse's life or a person you know, let's not let this go into the next year. Let's head this off of the past right now. So again, Every Man's Battle, December 2nd in Dallas. And as Alice mentioned earlier, coming up in February, we have our next Intimacy in Marriage. It's going to be here in Orange County. If nothing else, if you're kind of in one of those upper north, Midwest, and you need to get a break and come to sunny Southern California in February, do it with your spouse. But most importantly, wherever your marriage is at, it can deeply benefit from intimacy in marriage. Again, all of our information is online, www.newlife.com. Check us out there. Also, we have the app. You can check us out on YouTube as well, but we're here to help you. But again, any financial contribution for us, especially as you're planning the end of the year. And one thing I want to mention, we are also on Amazon Smile. So Amazon contributes a small percentage of everything that you purchase if you identify New Life as your contributing charity. And so, again, you want to make sure that that is New Life in Lake Forest, California. So with that, we're going to go back to the phones, and we're going to go to John in Manitoba, Canada. We got a Canuck listening to us. I'm very grateful for that, listening on Sirius XM. So, John, are you there?
I am. Hope you can hear me.
We can hear you well. How is up? How
Isn't
is
that amazing? I'm 2,000 miles away, and you can hear me.
Yeah. That is amazing. It is amazing. I have this. I've actually confessed. I've never been to Canada. I have a fascination with it. I would love to go sometime.
Oh, Canada's
so,
beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, you should.
Yeah.
You have to live unless you've been here.
I agree. I totally agree. John, how can we help you today?
So, I mean, I could talk. I could fill 100 hours a week of your time telling you about my problem. But I've actually been wanting to make this call for a long time and just never had the courage to actually make the call. And I just thought today was the day.
And I want to honor two things. I want to honor your courage, and I know you've been hanging on a while. I want to honor your patience. And so let's take this time. Let's dig in, man. What's going on?
So last week, I guess a little background. My wife and I are kind of separated, but not legally separated. She lives in Manitoba in our house, and I lost my income due to COVID. I was self-employed, and I had to reinvent myself. So I took a job as a truck driver, and I've been living in my truck by myself ever since in Ontario. And so I talk to her kind of daily, and I pay the bills for her, and I do that. And I discovered in the last week that my wife has developed a cocaine addiction.
Oh, wow. Wow. And so, John, what's the question for us?
How do I help her?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll first off say I'm so sorry. And, I think I'll start it here. One of the things about addiction is that typically we have in our mind a stereotype, of this is what a heroin addict looks like. This is what a cocaine addict, this is what an alcoholic looks like. But I'm telling you that addiction is no respecter of anyone's age, gender, socioeconomic status, race, whatever you put it. It doesn't matter. And so I think I mention that because a lot of people can get buried in that fear or that shame or that blocks of like, it doesn't make sense that, my wife is addicted to cocaine. I'm like, no, addiction doesn't make sense. But again, unfortunately, it happens. It's rampant. It's epidemic. And there is a very important question. What do I do now? So, Amanda, how do we help John?
Well, John, first I want to ask you, does your wife want help? Is she asking for help? So that's...
No, she won't even admit that she's doing it.
Okay, and you found out how?
So last week, when I met her, she had kids, and so we're kind of a blended family. We've been together for 30 years, and our daughter, her daughter, my daughter, our daughter, was on vacation in Paris and came home and found cocaine particles, sprinkles, on the back step on the deck where my wife was smoking it. And so she called me and told me, and I said, how did this happen? And so she admitted that she was the one that had been helping Mom get it.
Oh, wow.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Well.
So to be clear, I'm not so naive to think that this problem is something that just came up now.
Yes.
Very smart.
Yep.
Very smart.
This is a life. Hold on. I'm struggling a little.
Yeah. It's okay.
So my wife has a very addictive personality, and and the unfortunate thing, what allows this kind of thing what's allowed this to develop a life of its own is the dynamic of the relationship. My wife has 2 kids, so it's the 3 of them have always, I mean, ever since they were little children, they've always kind of had their own little secrets from me. And so the secrets when they were small were, Mom bought me this hat, even though she wasn't supposed to. She did anyway. And now the secrets are, well, she wasn't in a very good mood, so I got her some cocaine, and then she was happy, and then I could hang out with her because she wasn't yelling at me anymore.
Wow.
And
wow.
So
Yeah.
So, John, the first thing I would tell
and
you.
it's all of them.
Yeah, that I'm so sorry. Addiction is so crafty, and family systems often don't help. I personally am a sober alcoholic, and we talk about alcoholism as a family disease, and that everyone has a part to play. The first thing I would tell you, what I've learned in Al-Anon, which is a support group for families of people with addiction, is that you didn't cause it, you can't control it, and you can't cure it. That's the first thing we understand about addiction. I didn't cause it, I can't control it, and I can't cure it. The first thing I'm going to let my colleagues speak to how you help her, but the first thing I want to tell you is to help you. And the best way I know how to do that is to get into a 12-step group like Al-Anon, where they talk about addiction, educate you about addiction, and help you understand how you can contribute. The fourth thing is, I didn't cause it, I can't cure it, I can't control it, but I can contribute to it. And so getting into a support group with other people who are struggling with loved ones with addiction is the first thing I want to tell you to do, because without that infrastructure, you're just going to be flailing, Yeah.
Yeah. Flailing is, that's an understatement. And I don't want to sound stupid. I don't mean it that way, but I know I didn't cause it. I know I can't cure it. I know I can't fix it. But I have to engage. I gotta do something.
Yeah.
Well, that's that third part, John. Unfortunately, you can't control it. I know, and this is what we don't talk about enough in the recovery process. Is I've yet to encounter a person in genuine recovery that hasn't entered into grief and loss. And it's scary and it's hard. But this is where you need another C word, which is community. And that's what Amanda is speaking to, is that in these 12-step support groups like Al-Anon, we discover a community of people where we can ground in truth, ground in reality, and begin to get ourselves back from this process. John, we're going to go to a break here real quickly, but we're going to come back to you right after this.
My husband was involved with a pornography addiction. He was unfaithful. I called the wedding off. He stepped out on the marriage and ended up having a child.
The Restore Workshop is designed for a woman dealing with a man's sexual addiction issues.
My husband is a recovering sex addict. There were strip clubs, other ladies.
If you've been affected by betrayal, an emotional or physical affair, or pornography, the Restore Workshop will equip you with support and tools to help you through.
Restore has empowered me and has given me the tools to work through my anger, work through my pain, work through my confusion, and help me realize that I am worthy.
Being here and being surrounded by people who get it has given me my power back.
The Restore Workshop is coming to Washington, D.C. November 11th through the 13th. To register or to find out more, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE or online at newlife.com.
Thank you, Restore. You have changed my life forever.
Hi, this is Stephen Arterburn from New Life Ministries. We know that Christian counseling changes lives. We hear evidence of that every day.
I feel like I'm a person for the first time in my life. I feel like I wasn't whole before, or that I couldn't enjoy life. I had such a big weight on my shoulders that I had nothing to look forward to. I'm such a better wife, and I'm a better daughter, friend, a better worker. I feel absolutely free.
Our nationwide network of licensed Christian counselors means there is help available near you.
If anybody is considering Christian counseling, then they need to do it. They need to take that step.
You don't have to be stuck where you are, but you can't really expect to change unless you take action. Call us today at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. It could be the start of a whole new life for you. Christian counseling works, and we can help. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE today. Someone who cares is always there at 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back to New Life Live, and we are talking with John. And John, we're actually just talking about your situation here on the break, and knowing that unfortunately it's not as uncommon as we'd like it to, but fortunately you are not alone. But Amanda, you had something else to share with John.
Well, I just wanted to share.
I'd just like to say one thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Like I appreciate it, and you're absolutely right, but it's very uncommon for me.
Yes, that's good. Yes, but let me push back. Let me push back though, because you're telling me that this has been going on for years, and so one of the hard things. So it's not uncommon. It's actually you've adapted to it, unfortunately, really well, and so our job here today is to wake you up to that reality.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Right.
So, before the break, I said that alcoholism is a family disease, addiction is a family disease. And one of the things we understand about family systems is that, unfortunately, the healthiest person in the family system is often the one that's willing to adapt. And so the non-addict develops all of these coping mechanisms or these adapting mechanisms to control the addict, to try to keep them from using, to take obstacles out of their way. And then ultimately what's happened there is that the least healthy person is actually in control of the system, because the healthy people are trying to adapt until they become unhealthy, and your life is...
Hence, the healthiest person is living out of a truck.
Right.
Well, it's interesting you say that. Interesting you say that, because when you talk about removing obstacles, so, in the last 3 years, I've quadrupled my personal expenses paying things for her so that she wouldn't have to deal with problems. And all I've really done is freed up cash flow for her to be able to.
And see, that's that contribute piece, and you did that totally from love, But what you do when you're living with someone with an addiction is that you're walking on eggshells to try to prevent them from doing something that, there's a biological, now they've created a need for, or there's a psychological, spiritual need for. The unfortunate reality about addiction is that people don't get better until they want to get better, until the cost of using is higher. Like right now, addiction, the unfortunate thing about addiction is it works. It gets rid of pain. Addiction, we do things because they make us feel better. So there's anxiety, there's pain, there's boredom, there's shame, and cocaine, alcohol, pornography, they take them away briefly, and then it becomes so much easier to go to those things than to do the hard work to solve the problems. And so until the pain of the addiction eclipses, the pain of getting better, addicts don't change. That's why the 12 steps start with my life has become unmanageable. And so again, we hear your pain, and you have our great sympathy and our prayers. It's so painful to watch someone hurt themselves with addiction. And again, community, getting into a space to talk about it, to process it, to learn from other people's mistakes in the way that they contributed to their family addictions by, maybe you've heard the expression of a lawnmower parent, where a parent kind of goes in front of the child and mows the grass so they don't establish obstacles. That's the first thing we want to do when someone has an addiction, is let me just make their life better so they won't have to use. And it's not effective. If it was, I would absolutely tell you to buy a lawnmower.
Yeah, because the addiction runs the show, and the addiction it has its own will, and its will take over everyone else's.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the kids are doing it too, They're facilitating it, because also the addict is capable a lot of times of causing a lot of other people pain. And mom being really unhappy and I'm leaping here, I'm in the white spaces, but mom being really unhappy is really, really painful for the kids. So let's get her something to fix that. And again, that's part of the family disease.
So John, I'm going to give you 4 steps to take. Right. The first is, this might be a repeat. You request that the whole family get help, and you do it with humility, acknowledging that you've been imperfect as the father of this family, that you've been emotionally distant or unavailable, physically unavailable, but that the whole family's in pain and you all need help. Then you require that you all get help when they won't. And if that doesn't work, you get an interventionist, a professional who can help word this. And then with the help of the interventionist, you probably will have to start leveraging, where finances will have to be reallocated. Finances may have to be limited. You may even have to consider increasing levels of separation if the family is unwilling to get the help. I don't want anybody to go to the point of a legal separation, but sometimes we have to allow those natural consequences to take place so that your wife's pain is great enough to motivate her to get the help she doesn't yet want.
Mm-hmm. Great steps.
You got it, John?
Sure.
Hey, wait.
Tell the interventionist, it's funny that you say that, because there's that television show, Intervention. That's her favorite show. And I watched it. I've watched it 100 times with her.
Yeah.
And,
so hold. So this is perfect. This is perfect, John. Because also in our addiction, we become, this is a provocative word, and it's not meant to be, but we become voyeuristic, meaning that we like watching other people go through their process. But I think deep down inside of her, that her watching that show is also an indication, because if she was buried in shame and wanted nothing to do with recovery, I guarantee you she wouldn't watch that show. Mm-hmm. She is waiting for her own interventionist, and we have interventionists in our network. If you stay on the line, we can connect you with one of them. Amanda, you were going to say something?
No, I'm just agreeing.
Yeah.
When you are in total denial about addiction, you don't want to hear anybody use that word. That she's fascinated by it, and that I agree with Chris. There's something in there for her.
Yeah.
That she has some self-awareness about what's going on.
Yeah. So if you have to listen to this program again, follow those 4 steps from Alice. There is tremendous wisdom, and there is a pathway there for you. And again, it starts and it ends with, as we get better, we make better decisions and show up better for the things around us. Mm-hmm. But again, there is a contagion, and I want all of our listeners to hear that there is a contagion to addiction. If we are around it and even inadvertently participate in it, we all get its residue on us, meaning we all have a diminished function, a less than God desire inside of us. Because again, it's so weird how it has its own will and it takes over everything, and we start managing our own lives around it until we become completely mismanaged. Mm-hmm. So John's this example of John has no business living out of his own truck. He deserves a home. He deserves a place to come home to and put his feet up and take a deep breath and be the most honest version of himself and connect deeply to other people. But addiction has taken that away. So John, we're going to send you a copy of Take Your Life Back. We're also going to send you a Life Recovery Bible as well. And we want to encourage you to get into a Al-Anon program, 12-step program. And notice that John is calling from what may be a remote place. There is a lot of rural area in a place like Canada or even here in America. And so here's what's the great thing about technology is we can now connect to meetings that are online. We can now connect to phone calls as he connected with today. So don't allow, hey, it's not in my area to be an excuse any longer, because guess what? It's not a valid excuse.
Right. You can Zoom and drive at the same time. Don't use the video.
Yes.
But I have people in my meetings that are driving to work and they're attending a meeting on Zoom.
Yes. If our addictions and our out-of-controlness has accessibility, now so does the help that we need. It is accessible. We are an avenue of that accessibility here at New Life. If we can help you, 1-800-NEW-LIFE. We pray for hope and healing in life's hardest places for you today. Thank you for being with us.
Thanks for listening. We hope this program has helped you by giving you insights for handling the challenges you face in your life. We want you to know that we're here for you, but you also need to know that New Life Live is a listener-supported ministry. To make your donation or to get any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433, or write to us at New Life Ministries, P.O. Box 1029, Lake Forest, California, 92609. Please join us again tomorrow for New Life Live.
Hi, thank you for watching New Life Live. You know, New Life Live is a Christian counseling program where we deal with the hard questions about life, relationships, kids, free choice, freedom of will, whatever. It's all right there on New Life Live every day, every weekday, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. If you want to call into the live broadcast, you can find the schedule on newlife.com or click the social media link right below. You can see every episode of New Life Live on the New Life YouTube channel. Watch it with a friend, watch it later. Be sure to subscribe and hit that bell so you'll never miss another episode. So if you want to listen on the go, download the app. The link is right below. And I hope if you need some information, if you want to get some help, you'll call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. And I'll see you next time.